Hello everyone, here we are, Module 2. This module we're looking at a film called Amelie. It's a 2001 film, a French film. And I know you're probably wondering, okay, why are we still in 2001 when this film's from 1945 to present day? Well, the reason why I'm starting here and not going back to the 40s is because for our first feature film, I still wanted to give you something that moves at a speed that's a little bit more what you're used to, right? And the sophistication of the filmmaking is still pretty high level, right? You're going to see when we move back to the 40s and make our way through that the sophistication gets a little slower and gets a little bit lesser. And I didn't want to start there because I feel like jumping in, we're going to hold your attention a little better if we go about it this way, right? So that's why we're starting with 2001. This film is very well done. It's 21 years old or 20 years old, and people are still talking about it. It's still being used in film schools. It's still being analyzed because it's so well done. This film achieves like the status of art. It is not just a film, right? It is a work of art, and you're going to see that when you go out and check it out if you haven't already. It definitely hits all 5 elements: the writing, directing, storytelling aspect. It hits great cinematography. The acting is superb. It's got fantastic editing, and the sound design is top-notch, right? So this hits all the elements that we want you to look out for, and it does it in a way that it should be easy for you to kind of grasp and see and understand. Okay, so that's another reason why we've picked this film for you. First, we're going to talk about directing, and some of the things we want to talk about here have to start with the storytelling aspect of things, right? So the director takes the script, the written word, and their job is to create a visual story, okay? So when you read a script, it doesn't tell you where to put the camera or who to film and what they should be saying when you film them. All that, the director is deciphering and figuring out and deciding on themselves, right? And one of the first things that you want to kind of figure out is what is the narrative theme? Like, what's the overall kind of moral of the story, so to speak, I guess, right? And in this film, there are 2 of them. There's a major theme that sticks throughout the whole film, and then there is this kind of minor secondary theme, right? The first one being, you can't be an observer of life. You must be fully engaged to kind of have a meaningful life, right? You don't want to be on the outside looking in if you want to have a meaningful fulfilling life. You have to jump in and participate and take chances, because that's what, living life is, right? So that's the major theme, and hopefully you'll see that and be able to pick that out as you watch through the film. The second one has to do more with like love and relationships, and one of the things that they kind of touch on is the whole idea that the mechanics of sex is different than making love and having a connection and building a relationship, right? You can have one and not the other for sure. And so that's one of the other like kind of smaller themes that you'll see touched on throughout this film. So I'm hoping as you watch, you'll be able to pick this stuff out and understand what we're talking about or what I'm talking about here. The other thing that I really want you to be able to pick out is something called the inciting incident. So understanding how the story works is going to be another, great way for you to help decode film, okay? Understanding that where this inciting incident is and what it happens or when it happens is going to be a huge part of that, okay? So the inciting incident is the scene that happens that drives the rest of the story, okay? Everything before the inciting incident is introduction of character, introduction to the world of the story, and just letting us know who the players are. Then this inciting incident happens, and it's what drives the rest of the movie, right? So I'm going to tell you what the inciting incident is for this particular movie, Amelie. And the reason why is so that later on down the road, you can start to decipher this stuff on your own, right? But if I point it out for you, it should be easy for you to kind of figure out and see where the split in the story actually is. Okay, so the inciting incident in Amelie is she's at home. She's getting ready for bed, I believe. She's in the restroom brushing her teeth or something, and she hears a news story on the television, and it surprises her. She drops something, it rolls down the bathroom floor, hits the edge of the tile at the edge of the bathroom, and the tile pops off. And she realizes that there's a little cavity behind this piece of tile, and she pulls out this little toy chest that's obviously a long-lost toy chest from someone way back when. And she has a realization there. And that moment, that scene, is the scene that drives the rest of the story. And so hopefully when you see that scene, you're going to be able to pick out, okay, I can see where everything before that was a lot of introduction and just showing us the world and the players. And then everything after that is where the story really took off. So look for that, and hopefully you pick out what we need you to pick out. Definitely, the director is part of a collaborative team. In this particular film, you're going to look at heavy-duty cinematography and heavy-duty production design that are fantastic and brilliant, right? This film definitely achieves the whole, everything we want you to be able to understand and look at about movies, right? Watching how they use the camera placement, the camera movement, color, texture, and tone to create this really vibrant world is a major thing we want you to pull out of this first film. And I keep saying we, I just mean, digital media and us as this department and what we want our students to pull out of our classes, right? So sorry I keep saying we, but it's me. So one of the things we want to do is watch for visual metaphors, okay? So this is the director's going to place these things throughout the film, and they're more subtle things, really, right? They're things that you'd have to be an educated viewer to kind of pull this stuff out. And that's what we're trying to do for you, is make you educated viewers, right? So what is a visual metaphor, right? They represent an idea via an image. Okay, so one of the constant visual metaphors in this particular film is that Amelie is always framed within doorways and window frames and through glass and as a reflection through reflections. And it represents the fact that she's an observer of life and she hasn't started participating yet, right? And she's just afraid to jump in, right, and start living a life. She's always watching other people's lives, and then eventually that'll change for her, and the style of photography changes a little bit, right? So that's one of the visual metaphors that I want you to look for as you're, making your way through this film, is look for those shots where she is being framed up with a door frame or a window, again, behind glass or in a reflection. One of the things, this is also a major thing, right? The film because it's a visual medium, it's very different than some of the other forms of visual mediums, right? That didn't really make a lot of sense. So let me back that up a little bit. Film is a visual medium, and it's different from other forms of visual mediums. Okay, so what I'm getting at is film is different than photography and painting and sculpting and theater and things like that. Those are all visual mediums, right? When you're looking at a photography, a photograph, when you're looking at a photograph, that one photo that you're looking at has to tell the whole story, okay? In cinema, each shot is one piece of the building block or one puzzle piece of this entire puzzle that's going to help you understand what the storyteller is trying to do, right? So cinema is a serial art form. Every shot gets its meaning from the shots that came before it and the shots that'll come after it. It's all context, right? So something's going to you're going to understand something or get something from a shot because you've seen a bunch of shots before it, and that's going to help you understand it. Or maybe you're going to see a shot and go, wait, I don't understand what that's all about. And then you're going to see some shots after it, and that shot's then going to make sense. And that's what cinema is, and that's what storytelling is in movies, right? So having a good understanding about how the storyteller or the filmmaker is trying to influence you as a viewer is a huge step forward for that sophisticated moviegoer. Real quick before we pass off this is understanding the traditional story arc. This particular film does follow a traditional story arc, which just means that it follows a normal path in time, right? We start at a certain point in her life and we see it linearly as we travel through her life, right? We're not bouncing around in time where I'm over here in her life and then I bounce backwards in time and then I jump to the future and then I bounce back over here. It follows a traditional narrative arc where we just are seeing a snippet of her life. We do see her a little bit of her childhood, and then she jumps to adulthood. And then once we get there, the adulthood portion that we're watching is linear. We're not bouncing around in time. And that's what a traditional story arc is. And you should also see her grow and develop as a person. right? That's what you want to see, and that's what a character arc is. A person starts off one way and then changes by the time we get to the end of the story, and that's what you're looking for in a traditional arc.